The morning sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my suite, casting a soft golden glow across the polished marble floor. I adjusted the cuff of my silk blouse and sipped my coffee, listening to the low hum of the city beneath me. The hotel was mine. Every key, every suite, every corridor, but my phone buzzed insistently on the glass table, breaking the serene moment. I picked it up, eyebrow raised at the unexpected name flashing on the screen, Madeline Harper. My cousin. The same cousin who, 15 years ago, had claimed my childhood room as if it were her birthright. My stomach tightened, and a strange mix of nostalgia and irritation bubbled up. I thought of that old bedroom, the lavender walls I painted myself, the tiny desk where I scribbled dreams of a life far beyond our small town. And she, Madeline, smiling, smug, walking in as though she had earned it. The memory made me smile faintly now, not with bitterness, but with quiet irony. "Olivia," she texted.
"Can we talk? I
need your help." I leaned back in the velvet armchair, tracing the rim of my coffee cup, feeling a ripple of pride I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge in years. The hotel was my life's work, my proof that being overlooked was never a sentence, just a challenge. And yet, seeing her name again brought back the ache I'd buried deep. I remember that summer like it was yesterday. I was 12, filled with the kind of dreams only a child could believe in. My room had been my sanctuary, a place I painted in soft lavender, where every shelf held a story or a plan for the future. I had saved every penny from my small chores just to buy a new lamp, a small token of ownership in a world that often made me feel invisible. Then Madeline came home from her summer camp, all smiles and arrogance. "Mom says I can move into your room," she announced, tossing her suitcase on the bed I had spent months arranging. My heart stuttered, and I felt the familiar sting of being overlooked, dismissed, replaced. "But it's mine," I whispered, trying not to shake. Her laugh was soft, dismissive. "Oh, Olivia, you have the attic. It's cozier anyway." And just like that, my lavender sanctuary became her kingdom. I remember standing there, fists clenched, fighting back tears, my hands trembling. My parents didn't intervene. They never seemed to notice when I lost battles like this. I ran to my grandmother's porch that evening, the wooden floorboards creaking under my bare feet. She handed me a small notebook, its leather worn but soft in my hands. "Olivia," she said, her eyes steady, "they may take rooms, take spaces, even try to take your voice. But they can't take your dreams. Fill this with what you want, and one day, no one will be able to tell you it's too small for you." That night, I wrote feverishly, tears smudging ink, my resolve hardening with each word. I didn't just want my room back. I wanted to create spaces where no one could ever overshadow me again. That notebook became my blueprint, my silent rebellion. It was the first time I decided that I would never allow anyone's disregard to define me. By the time I tucked the notebook under my pillow, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and determination. Losing my room had hurt, yes, but it had lit a fire inside me, a fire that would grow stronger with every obstacle. I left my hometown shortly after high school, suitcase in hand, and that worn notebook tucked under my arm. The world beyond our small streets felt enormous, intimidating, and exhilarating all at once. Every step away from home felt like a quiet rebellion against the idea that my voice, my dreams, could be silenced. New York was a whirlwind. I worked long hours at cafes, front desks, and eventually small boutique hotels, soaking up every detail of how they ran. The way managers handled complaints, the subtle dance of guest satisfaction, the endless spreadsheets that, at first, seemed like a foreign language.
It was exhausting.
My hands were raw from endless late nights, my eyes heavy from endless learning, and yet, each small success felt like a promise fulfilled. Then I met Margaret Sloan, a seasoned hotel owner who noticed my relentless curiosity and sharp instincts. She became my mentor, teaching me how to spot opportunities where others saw problems. "Olivia," she said one night as we pored over occupancy reports in a tiny office lit by a single desk lamp, "the world doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who see, act, and believe, even when no one else does. Her words became a mantra. I scraped together every saved penny, took calculated risks, and slowly started acquiring small properties. Each acquisition was a victory, a silent affirmation that my grandmother had been right. No one could take my dreams. The first time I turned a small, rundown into a profitable boutique hotel, I cried quietly in the manager's office, thinking of the lavender walls I had lost and the promise I had written down all those years ago. Through those years, I learned patience, persistence, and the art of discretion. I never flaunted my progress to family. My social media posts were modest. My parents and cousin assumed I was working hard, struggling perhaps, but nowhere near the life I was quietly building. Each milestone, the first big client, the first fully booked weekend, the first profitable year, was celebrated privately, tucked into the notebook I still carried with me, its pages now filled with triumphs rather than dreams. By the time I turned 30, I had acquired my first major hotel in the heart of Manhattan. It was beautiful, elegant, and entirely mine. Every corner, from the lobby's marble floors to the hand-picked art on the walls, whispered a story of struggle, perseverance, and victory. I had become exactly what I had promised myself: unshakable, independent, and quietly unstoppable. Yet even in this success, a part of me remembered that little girl who lost her room. That memory wasn't a wound. It was fuel, a reminder of the fire I had carried forward, a fire that no cousin, no family slight, could ever extinguish. I was reviewing the day's bookings in my corner office when the receptionist's voice carried over the intercom. "Miss Bennett, your cousin Madeline Harper is here. She says it's urgent." My chest tightened for a moment, the old flutter of nerves I hadn't felt in years. But I straightened in my chair, smoothing the silk of my blouse and taking a deep breath. The Olivia who had lost her room all those years ago had been replaced by a woman who built her own kingdom, and kingdoms don't panic at old ghosts. Madeline entered the lobby, eyes widening as they swept over the polished marble floors, the towering chandeliers, the curated art lining the walls. Her heels clicked against the floor, hesitant, almost timid. I watched her from the office balcony above, letting her absorb it all. The hotel was more than just bricks and beams. It was my life, my labor, my triumph. And she was seeing it for the first time. I descended the spiral staircase slowly, letting each step mark my presence. The lobby felt impossibly large, but I moved through it with quiet command. When she finally looked up at me, her jaw slightly dropped, I allowed myself the tiniest smile. "Olivia," she breathed, her voice unsteady. I folded my hands in front of me, letting the silence stretch just long enough. Then, softly but firmly, I said, "Yes, Madeline. It's me. And yes, all of this is mine." Her eyes darted around, disbelief etched across her face. I thought you were struggling? You never said." "I didn't need to," I interrupted gently, letting her words hang in the air. "I've been building my life quietly. Every hotel, every investment, every single decision, carefully, deliberately, because I knew one day someone like you would want to see where I ended up." Her hands trembled slightly, and I could see the recognition of her own failings in her eyes. She had assumed I was vulnerable, still the little girl who had been pushed aside. Instead, she was looking at a woman who had not just survived, but thrived. I led her through the hotel, pointing out the suites I had personally renovated, the art I had hand-selected, the spaces I had crafted for guests to feel welcome and inspired. Every step was a subtle reminder. This wasn't luck, it wasn't inheritance, it was hard work and vision. When we finally reached the grand ballroom, I stopped and faced her directly. "Do you see it now, Madeline? The woman who lost a bedroom, the girl who was overlooked? She owns the hotel. Not by chance, not by family favor, but by her own hands." Her lips parted, but no words came. I let the silence do its work. The disbelief, the shock, the shame, it all hung in the room like tangible weight. And then, just when it seemed she might crumble under it, I smiled. Not cruelly, not vindicatively, but with the quiet pride of someone who had transformed pain into power. "I've been waiting for this day," I whispered, To show you that some losses aren't the end. They're the beginning. Madeline's eyes glistened, and I could see the old rivalry flicker with something new, recognition, perhaps even regret. But more than that, I felt a calm satisfaction. I was no longer the girl who lost her room. I was the woman who owned the hotel. Madeline's gaze followed mine as I led her into my private office. The city stretched beyond the glass walls, glittering under the afternoon sun, a reminder of everything I had built from scratch. For the first time in years, I held the upper hand, not just over her, but over the memory of every moment I had been dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the chair opposite my desk. She obeyed, hesitant. I poured 2 glasses of sparkling water and slid one across to her. "Olivia," her voice faltered. She tried to form the words, but I held up a hand. "I know why you're here," I said gently, yet firmly. "You want help, but it's not unconditional. Not anymore. I've learned that power isn't about punishment. It's about boundaries, growth, and accountability." I paused, letting the weight of my presence settle around her. "You took my room when I was 12. That hurt me, but I survived.
I thrived.
And now you have a choice. Step into your own life or continue repeating the patterns that have held you back." I leaned forward slightly. "Here's what I'm offering. I will support you if you're willing to commit to real change. You must leave behind entitlement. You must embrace responsibility. You must invest your time and energy into something meaningful, something that builds you rather than tears others down." She swallowed hard, her eyes wide. I can do that," she whispered. I studied her for a moment, gauging her sincerity.
"Good.
"You'll start with learning the hotel from the ground up. You'll work alongside the staff, understand operations, and earn respect the way it's meant to be earned. No shortcuts. No excuses." Her lips parted, the weight of my words sinking in. I could see her trembling, not with fear, but with the realization that the old privileges she relied on were gone. "And if I don't," she asked. "Then you step away," I said softly. "I won't force you to change, but I also won't let the past control me anymore. My success is mine. My space is mine. And I protect both fiercely." I leaned back, letting the tension ease slightly. "Madeline, I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to give both of us a chance to heal. You'll need patience, humility, and effort. But if you succeed, you'll find something far more valuable than my forgiveness, self-respect, and the ability to create your own legacy." She nodded slowly, determination flickering across her face. I saw glimpses of the cousin I once knew, the confident, ambitious girl, mixed with someone ready to shed old patterns and start anew. It felt strange, even exhilarating, to watch her transform under the very rules I set. For the first time in our lives, the power dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the child who lost a room anymore. I was the woman who set the terms, who defined what respect and growth looked like. And for the first time, I realized something profound. Compassion and authority weren't mutually exclusive. They could coexist beautifully, and that was the kind of leader I wanted to be. Weeks passed and change slowly took root. Madeline threw herself into the work I had set before her. She learned the staff schedules, shadowed managers, and spent hours understanding guests' needs. She stumbled, of course, but each mistake became a lesson, each small victory a reminder that growth required effort, not entitlement. Watching her evolve was quietly satisfying, a testament to the power of second chances when met with accountability. I, too, spent those weeks reflecting on my journey. I revisited the old notebook my grandmother had given me, now frayed at the edges but filled with decades of plans, triumphs, and even a few failures. Each page whispered memories of a little girl who had felt overlooked and powerless, and of a young woman who had turned that pain into motivation. It was more than a notebook, it was a chronicle of resilience. One evening, after a long day of overseeing renovations and meeting clients, I found myself in my childhood bedroom, the small space I had claimed as a hotel suite's administrative office. I ran my fingers over the lavender wall remnants that had been preserved as a nod to my beginnings. It struck me then how far I had come, and how that tiny room had been the seed of everything I had achieved. The memory of losing it no longer hurt. It fueled me, reminding me that every setback was an opportunity in disguise. Madeline knocked softly, peeking in with a smile that no longer carried hesitation. "Thank you, Olivia," she said, "for giving me a chance and for showing me what it takes to really succeed." I nodded, feeling the quiet satisfaction of closure. There was no need for grand speeches or declarations. Her growth was the proof I needed that power paired with compassion could reshape even the oldest wounds. As I looked out over the city from the hotel's balcony that evening, the sun dipping into shades of amber and rose, I allowed myself a small, private smile. I had been a girl who lost her room, a young woman who struggled, and now, a woman who had built her own world from the ground up. The hotel was mine, my life was mine, and my spirit remained untouchable. I picked up the notebook from my desk, flipping through the final pages where I had written, "Dreams aren't taken, they're earned." It had come full circle. The little girl who once felt powerless would always be a part of me, but she had been strengthened, transformed, and celebrated in the woman I had become. And with that, I whispered to the wind, almost as if speaking to every version of myself I had ever been. I lost a room, but I found my kingdom,